Charleston White really thought he could keep poking at T.I.'s son, King Harris, without facing real heat.
I remember how you and Wallow were crying. You and Wallow were crying. Oh, my son got killed. Oh, you were crying. Now you talking about snitching. You goddamn right I'm a law-abiding citizen.
For years, he's been going after King with wild threats, even dragging Trayvon Martin into it, which had people shaking their heads in disgust.
Family, I got willing to risk their lives and freedom to die by me and mine. You hear me? Why don't play with me, man? So far up your ass, you'll floss your teeth with my shoelaces, nigga. Play with me, bro. Don't play with me, bro. Don't play with mine, bro. Don't play with mine. Just don't play with mine.
So why you was a bitch, boy? Man, we was about to whoop your ass when you come back down here from telling. I can see you had a soft upbringing.
Your boy don't know how to fight. Neither do that T.I. little yellow motherfucker, long hair freak. That little don't know how to fight either. Get them y'all babies is rapper baby. Your son to nobody now.
The way he constantly clowns every little thing King does is straight up obsessive. And now it looks like that obsession has gone too far. T.I. ain't letting this slide anymore. When you start coming at a man's child, that's a line you just don't cross.
About my son, what some grown man had to say about my son, man. Cause somebody please, just pull me up to speed, man. Just pull me up to speed. How some grown man had some shit to say about my son. Just pull me up to speed on that, man. Just pull me up to speed on that, man. What fuck ass grown as wasted his whole life doing absolutely nothing. Got something to say about my son at the beginning of his adult. Got family. I got who willing to risk their lives and freedom to die by me and mine. You hear me? Why don't play with me, man? Don't play with my child. My foot so far up your ass, you'll floss your teeth with my Don't play with me, bro. Don't play with me, bro.
Tearing into King Harris, even calling him a nobody.
Your son to nobody now. He going to jail again. Yeah, he ain't grew up tough like his daddy.
Who did what? Who? Man, we was about to whoop when you come back down here from telling. Yo, you had, I can see you had a soft
daddy. Raised a yellow. Yeah, that nigga T.I. son say.
But the vibe feels different this time. Like Charleston White might have finally pushed the wrong button and bitten off more than he can handle. Insiders are saying his desperate jabs are rooted in pure envy. They claim White can't stand watching a young King Harris pull respect and attention that he himself never got.
This is they call the laws, and they came. He over there. Man, I ain't finna say no name. I don't play police game. If I go to jail, it's gonna be for something. It's gonna be for something. I don't play no police game, man. I don't play no police game.
Everybody know, homie. That man say he a 7-time convicted felon in one song. 7 convicted felons.
Even back in his so-called prime, at 48 with legal problems stacking up and his online buzz fading fast, Charleston looks like he's projecting his frustrations onto King's rising charisma and growing influence.
Ain't got going on, ain't got no real talent, can't do nothing but kick up dust and wait on that fall down so they get dirty and some clout get to them. I know that's how niggas get paid.
Word is spreading that Charleston White might actually be scared to get back online, like he knows deep down he went too far this time. Even he can't spin his way out of the mess he created. T.I. didn't hold back when he checked Charleston's meltdown, and he made it crystal clear he sees straight through this pitiful act. The Atlanta icon spoke with pure disgust, saying Charleston is so empty inside that he drags kids into his mess just to stay noticed. T.I. laid it out plain. White is a 48-year-old man with no real legacy, nothing to his name but stirring chaos around other people's children, and the jealousy is obvious. King Harris is only 20, already commanding more respect, better opportunities, and a brighter future than Charleston ever touched in his whole life, or ever will. But T.I. wasn't done there. He stripped White's credibility bare, reminding everybody that this is the same man who ratted on his own crew, sprayed cats with pepper spray, and constantly ends up getting stomped out at comedy shows before crying to the police for help. And now he's online whining about T.I.'s son, all because King embodies everything Charleston can't be: young, gifted, and actually loved by his family. T.I.'s words cut like a blade, exposing how White's desperate stunts are nothing but a sad attempt to drag down thriving black families since his own life is crumbling. But it was T.I.'s final warning that had people holding their breath. T.I. didn't waste time sugarcoating anything. His warning was short, sharp, and unforgettable. Play with my child? That was it. No extra words needed. Everyone understood the message. Charleston White had crossed into dangerous territory, and T.I. was officially done playing around. But let's be real. Charleston's obsession with King Harris ain't just jealousy. It's the outburst of a man watching his entire world fall apart. This so-called truth teller hit his peak back in 2023, but that shine is long gone. His time in the spotlight is over, and all that's left is a desperate figure clinging to chaos. Instead of respect, Charleston's legacy is now tied to courtroom drama and disturbing charges that show who he really is: a washed-up provocateur with nothing left to lose. In October 2024, he was arrested in Tarrant County, Texas, facing accusations of animal cruelty and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Reports claimed he pepper sprayed a cat, an act so twisted it shocked even his most loyal supporters. Authorities clearly weren't playing either. He was held without bond at the Lon Evans Correction Center, a sign they were taking the case deadly serious. But his legal nightmare didn't end there. By February 2025, Charleston was back in cuffs again, this time on another aggravated assault charge. Charleston White tried to spin it by claiming his charges got dropped, but the pattern speaks louder than any excuse. He's turned into a repeat offender, stacking up arrests quicker than he's losing relevance. The man who once thrived off controversy is now remembered more for mugshots than anything intelligent he's ever said. Insiders close to T.I. are saying the Atlanta legend is ready to go to any length to keep parasites like White far away from his family. T.I. has drawn a line in the sand. Nobody gets to threaten his children, especially not a man whose own story has spiraled into nothing but wasted chances and self-destruction. The irony here is wild. We're talking about a guy who snitched on his own friends as a teenager and now racks up charges for animal cruelty and aggravated assault. Yet somehow he thinks he has the right to judge King Harris. The audacity is insane. White's record is nothing but a highlight reel of chaos. Courtroom confessions, lockups, and public meltdowns that went viral for all the wrong reasons. So when he tries to pass his ranting off as commentary, it just looks pathetic. Charleston White's story starts dark. Born in Fort Worth, Texas in 1977, his life was tangled in violence from day one. By just 14, he was already caught up in a robbery that ended with the tragic death of Michael Levy, landing him a conviction and 7 years locked in juvenile detention. During that time, he even lost his right eye in a childhood accident, all while growing up without a father. A storm of abandonment and rage that shaped the angry persona we see today. So when you look at his constant stunts, it makes sense. Controversy is the only thing he knows. He didn't rise on social media because of real talent or genuine advocacy. He blew up through shock value and sick takes about the dead. From DMX to George Floyd, his name spread off pure disrespect. Nobody cared where he actually came from. He forced his way into relevance by being toxic, skipping any legit path to influence. And this is where it gets twisted. His attacks on young men like King Harris reveal way more than jealousy. They expose a broken psychological pattern rooted in childhood trauma he never dealt with. White brags about mentoring youth, but in reality, he zeroes in on successful young black men from solid families, the very thing he never had. Growing up fatherless left him bitter, and now he projects that pain onto the next generation. His obsession with rappers' kids ain't random. It's resentment, plain and simple, towards anyone who managed to build the kind of stability he could only dream of. Charleston White never learned how to respect others, build real family bonds, or find success without trying to tear somebody else down. He's even admitted he grew up feeling unloved, unwanted, and rejected, and now he dumps that pain onto the youth who shine in all the ways he never could. The man who spent his teen years locked in juvenile detention for a killing simply can't stomach watching King Harris step into adulthood with doors open and family behind him, a reality White never had. That's why he stays fixated on young men living the life he lost before it even began. What makes this feud wild is that it didn't start as some big calculated beef. It was the desperate swing of a man already slipping into irrelevance. By late 2022, White had built his whole image around shock value, but the reactions were drying up fast. So, starving for attention, he made the fatal mistake of aiming his attacks at T.Y.'s household, not realizing he was poking at a bear that bites back. Everything blew up on October 8th, 2022. That's when Charleston went off on one of his classic unhinged rants, dragging not one, but two rappers' sons into the chaos. Boozy Badazz's son, Tootie Raw, and T.I.'s son, King Harris. Both young men were already facing legal drama at the time, but White's decision to pile on only lit the fuse that would spark a feud still burning today. King Harris had just been arrested alongside Tootie Raw in September 2022, and Charleston White thought he struck gold with the dirt he needed to kick off his assault. But that moment revealed everything about White's twisted psychology. Instead of stepping up with real advice, like he always pretends to do as a so-called mentor for troubled youth, he went straight for the throat. He unleashed cruel personal attacks with a kind of sick excitement, tearing into King's looks and even predicting he'd fail in life. That wasn't commentary, that was pure malice. And the timing wasn't random either. T.I. was juggling comedy tours and fatherhood with his family already under the public microscope. White smelled weakness and pounced, moving like the opportunistic predator he's always been. But this time, he made the wrong move because King Harris wasn't just another kid to bully, he had the backbone to clap back. On October 9th, 2022, the then 18-year-old jumped on Instagram Live and flipped the script, calling White exactly what he was, a snitch and a coward who feeds on the youth for clout. King's response wasn't wild or reckless. It was sharp, controlled, and packed with more maturity than Charleston could ever show. And that must have burned White deep, because here was a teenager embarrassing a grown man who spent decades mastering the art of humiliation. In that moment, the tables turned. Charleston White got publicly exposed, not by T.I., not by another OG, but by the very young man he tried to tear down. King Harris's clapback hit harder than anyone expected because it cracked Charleston White right where he's weakest, facing somebody who wasn't scared of him. His so-called tough guy image fell apart instantly. And the wild part, King didn't even have to stoop to White's level. Instead, he calmly exposed Charleston's long history of working with law enforcement, all while holding his own dignity. It was a straight-up masterclass in handling a bully, and Charleston couldn't handle being checked like that. That's when White showed his real face, and it was uglier than anyone thought. Rather than taking the L like a man, he spiraled and doubled down with threats that crossed a line nobody expected. On October 10th, 2022, Charleston White took things to a chilling level, issuing what sounded like straight-up death threats against King Harris. And he didn't stop there. He dragged George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin's names into the rant, turning his meltdown into a twisted display of violence and racism that even stunned some of his most loyal supporters. This wasn't some shock jock controversy or petty trolling for clicks. This was a grown man threatening a teenager's life while weaponizing one of America's most painful hate crimes. By invoking Trayvon Martin's tragedy to target T.I.'s son, Charleston revealed just how far he was willing to go, terrorizing a young black man and his family just to stay relevant. It exposed the depths of his hatred towards successful black families and proved he'll even exploit racial trauma for his own desperate clout grab. When Charleston White realized he couldn't scare the Harris family with his threats, he flipped to his next dirty tactic, trying to weaponize the criminal justice system like it was his personal tool. And for a man who loves to preach about helping young black men, watching him rush to drag law enforcement into a beef with a teenager was flat out disgusting. The second T.I. caught wind of White's threats toward his son, everything changed. The patience he'd shown critics and trolls for years was gone in an instant. Threatening his child was the one line Charleston should have never crossed, and on October 10, 2022, T.I. made it clear this was a mistake that woke up something White wasn't ready for. T.I.'s protective instincts roared to life like a father who built his entire world around his family. At that stage, T.I. was focused on comedy, business, and guiding his kids through young adulthood. But Charleston's threats pulled him right back into warrior mode. He let it be known that no price was too high and no risk too great when it came to defending his son. The contrast couldn't be more glaring. On one side stood a father fueled by real love and responsibility, willing to sacrifice anything for his child's safety. T.I.'s response carried the weight of a man with everything to lose, but still ready to risk it all for his family. Meanwhile, Charleston White lashed out like a man with nothing left, because deep down he's already lost the things that matter most. What could have been a moment to calm things down turned into a circus on October 10th, 2022, when T.I. and White actually got on the phone to talk it out. That call was supposed to squash the beef, but instead it became proof that White simply can't function like a normal human being. Faced with the chance to back away from the edge, he blew it completely. Later, he even bragged that the call was unsuccessful, then twisted it into fresh fuel for more of his messy content. And how did White follow it up? By issuing T.I. a ridiculous celebrity boxing challenge, complete with the bizarre demand that Steve Harvey referee the fight and T.I. wear an eye patch to make things fair. The whole stunt exposed just how delusional his mindset really was. Imagine this: a grown man makes threats against someone's child, then tries to spin it into a publicity stunt for clout. The audacity was unreal. Instead of taking responsibility, White looked at a father's rage as nothing more than marketing material for his fading brand. The boxing challenge only proved how clueless Charleston White really was about the situation. T.I. wasn't about to turn his family's safety into some circus act for pay-per-view clout. While White dreamed about social media buzz and fake fight hype, T.I. was locked in on the real-life danger of a violent man threatening his child. That's the difference between a father and a fraud. And throughout this feud, White kept reaching for the same tired angle: T.I.'s old Crime Stoppers commercial after his 2007 gun case. He tried to paint the rapper as a federal informant, hoping the smear would stick, but the attack was laughable coming from Charleston, a man who literally testified against his co-defendants in a murder trial and even bragged about snitching on his own people. That's the thing about Charleston White. He thrives on hypocrisy. He'll accuse others of the exact dirt he's guilty of himself. If it wasn't so pathetic, the irony might almost be impressive, but everybody saw through it. The so-called Crime Stoppers angle became White's go-to weapon whenever he needed a new clip to stir chaos, but it backfired badly, because here was a man building his whole persona around being a reformed gang member, all while dragging another man for promoting community safety. The contradiction was too obvious, and instead of hurting T.I.'s image, it made Charleston look like the biggest clown in the room. It was projection at its clearest, and it made Charleston White look desperate and foolish. When T.I. dropped his verse on Juicy Fruit's Step in November 2022, widely seen as a White diss, it should have been the end. T.I. handled it with class, shutting him down musically without lowering himself to threats or trash talk. But White, true to form, missed the whole point. Instead of realizing he'd been embarrassed, he actually praised the track and begged to be on the remix. That exposed everything. He was so starved for attention that even being dissed felt like a win. His attacks on King Harris showed the same twisted pattern, waiting until the young man faced challenges, then swooping in with cruel jabs only to cry victim when people clapped back. It's a cycle of negativity from someone who never learned how to earn real respect. At the end of the day, White doesn't care if he's hated. He just wants to be noticed. And that's why his story feels less like a rise and more like a cautionary tale of wasted potential. So tell me, do you think Charleston White was doomed from the start, or could he have built something real if he chose a different path? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.